Alright, we're here with the second match of the Collective Draft League. My lovely co-host unfortunately couldn't step in, but we have Risky CV, one of the players on commentary. So, hello,
Yo.
Risky.
What's going on? It's gonna be a sweet match.
Yeah, I mean, really excited to see these two players' drafts because they've got, some of the most interesting stuff. Obviously, people are really excited to see what Greece packing with the Wake the World shenanigans. That's obviously been on people's radar. And then in general,
Yeah.
I think Empty Folder had really smart drafts, was able to pick up a lot of things, in nice places. So, a lot of
Empty's looking like it's gonna have a Bullock deck and probably a Helden deck. The Bullock deck looks a lot better. It has stuff like Unliving Belfry and a lot of recursion synergy with that, like Lesser Raised Dead and stuff. So I think it'll be pretty solid. Also has Sycomancer and other good early drops like Bullfog Trainer.
We are live in game at this point. I'm looking at Grace's point of view. It's like Empty Folder did in fact bring out the Bullock, which is off to kind of a nutty start with that Sycomancer and Twice Undead looking a little suspiciously like constructed.
Yeah, this is a very good opener. And the cards in hand are also going to be a good follow-up. I think this is a really good draw. You can't ask for much more.
Yeah. Interesting to look at. You've got Grief has the Seaside Landlord in hand. So I do believe this will be some place Wake the World shenanigans, which I'm excited to see.
Nice. I like that. Calm Refuge, really like perfect card that you would want early on to slow this aggression down.
So it's really interesting to see. I guess you could probably speak to that first match, how we were able to progress kind of a lot later into the game, and these big drops mattered a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see if that makes Wake the World a little more viable, because whereas Turn 8 is a little slow to be cranking on the pressure in a constructed game, it might be perfect for a format like this. So
it's really easy to get late game for sure, because you're just not going to have the streamlined decks that you have in constructed. You won't have the guaranteed drops on every turn. Basically, like right now, you'd almost always be seeing like a Bullfrog Trainer with like another Sycomancer or something in a normal Bullock deck. Instead, you get Otherworld Warrior, like not quite as good.
For sure. Interesting. They're looking mostly level. It looks like Grief is packing some pretty significant early game. The Seaside Landlord along with the Calm Refuge, which I guess I didn't totally realize is a place. So already we might see our first Wake the World
here. That's going to be huge. Yeah. Empty's actually holding an answer to the Calm Refuge that I'm surprised he didn't use last turn to get that Sycomancer back in play, because that would obviously his board would have been a lot bigger already if he'd done that. Instead, chose to go for the Belfry last turn and get that into play, but maybe that's for the rebounds.
Passive and aggressive coming into play. It seems like it may have slightly broken the mana totals going on, but
I think he tried to play passive aggressive, but didn't actually have enough mana to choose either mode. So it just went straight to the graveyard since it was off affinity. I think that's actually a visual bug where it shows the cards as costing 0 when they're off affinity, but they actually do still cost mana.
Yeah. Belfry, what that bounce? Oh, that bounced the Twice Undead back, so that's 5/4 with lifelock for 1, which is pretty decent pickup for Empty Folder to send here.
Well, they've just got an amazing draft. We'll see if the card ends up paying dividends later on. Got a Chariot from the draft, which is definitely not something they have in their deck, but that card is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, you were able to demonstrate that earlier.
Especially with this Bullock Hero Reward, the dude that makes 1/1s, it's going to be very, very difficult to deal with if Grief doesn't have an answer. Just pumping out tokens and making them huge.
Interesting to see. Seems like Grief was, having the card advantage, maybe some late game threats, but quickly this has turned, just getting the value off of those units that Bullock uses to recharge, like even in Standard with the Belfry and the Twice Undead, and even some of the lower, like Blessed Uncommon, stuff like that, Otherworld Warrior. This has been some really successful sustained aggression, which we didn't quite see in the last game. So I'm interested to see whenever aggro is pulling ahead. It makes me kind of happy, ambitious that like different archetypes can succeed in a format like this.
Yeah, definitely. It's tough to get hyper aggro, but maybe as the season goes on and people trade more, we're going to see very, very powerful aggro decks.
For sure.
And Spook Blast on the Bip and Bop. There are two really like high value targets that you could have gone for with that Spook Blast instead. Bip and Bop maybe will trigger 1 or 2 more times this game. Instead, you could have gotten rid of the Calm Refuge or the plus mana. Even getting rid of the Refuge would make the Seaside Landlord almost like worthless at this point until he plays another place.
Excuse me if I'm a little quiet here, trying to, now that I know that stream is live past our 5-minute delay, trying to plug us in all the channels and stuff. Again, not Blazing Shuriken.
It's a huge play. Blazing Shurikens on to kill the duelist, and now threatening any sort of recursion with a 4/4 Belfry is going to be like very dangerous.
Brutal, right? And that's the interesting thing with Shuriken is that it seems like a lot of players are valuing that card very highly, even though it's not something you see tons in Constructed. So
that card is ridiculous. I think it's one of the best cards, like in like it's premium removal, like up there with almost anything else besides possibly Earthquake or something, because that just kills everything. But like that card is insane. It'll kill almost any unit while making your guy bigger, and that is just value. Especially when you can synergize it with Belfry. Oh, refresh the past, huh?
Yeah, a lot of these interesting. Goes into the down and dirty probably buys.
Getting real dirty.
Buys Grief Return at least. And the Lizardbat. Interesting.
In reality, that was 2 cards to just kind of gain like maybe 6 or 7 life between the refresh and the down and dirty, so that's not that powerful.
Yeah. I never know with cards like those who win the awful time. It also seems like Grief is running against
what
the
is
clock.
going on right now, Grief? Grief is spicing it up.
Yeah, jeez.
Ooh, a jammy, okay. And currently no answer in hand for Foldigger.
JTAD has entered the field. It'll be interesting to see if he can change the tides.
There it is.
Chariot is.
See,
good.
that was kind of bad sequencing there by Folder.
Yeah.
Playing the 1/1 forehand. You could have actually just passed the turn back and not done anything. Since he played Woodland Ritual, is almost definitely going to play something after. So maybe you could have played a little more reactionary there. Alright, what do we got? I don't really have any good attacks here with that 3/5 out and the deadly.
Yeah. Interesting to see this. One just felt pretty back and forth. Jammy is just gonna generate. Especially. That one isn't usually a great roll, but seeing that here is actually pretty nice for maybe generating a little bit more card advantage.
Alright, now with the Chariot untap, you can actually answer the jammy. Might just have another jammy to drop though, we'll see.
Interesting to see, looking at his choices here, he's got a Triceratops Alpha, which is a pretty big drop, flips burgers, and then the Cursed Kingdom, which is the 5-mana 0/4 whenever a non-undead unit enters play, give it -1/1, and create the Guardian Mummy for its opponent. He's ending up scouring for that Cursed Kingdom to try and slow some of the progression of Empty Forest units and make the Wake the World a lot stronger in the long run.
Yeah, Cursed Kingdom will shut off the fragment, at least. I think. I don't know how it triggers with Chariot. If like the unit comes into play, it gets the minus, and then it gets the plus HP. We'll probably see in a second. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Interesting to see the library come out. I guess maybe with the timers going off as far as Chariot and stuff, I mean, it is another place. He might want to grab that scroll as soon as possible so he can keep the recharge growing and make the Wake the World turn as strong as possible whenever it goes off. But Chariot has shown once again to just be brutal as far as snowballing the board.
Oh yeah, goes for the level up with 3 attacks. I've never played Bullock in my life, so I kind of forget that that's what Bullock's trying to do.
Oh man, I feel that is an interesting hero sometimes to try and place those 3 attacks in the optimal position. You see the twice undead coming in. It does seem like one of the highest value targets, so it's interesting to see it go out here, but yeah.
Yeah, that deadly's going to trade for something at some point anyway. I guess he could Chariot down, and maybe that would have been worth it, but Folder's valuing the level up more this turn. Holy crap. Folder is getting the most insane drafts. I cannot believe the Folder just got a Veiled Mother off his draft.
Oh jeez.
How is that fair at all? What the heck?
And there's the wait, I don't even super know
Returning
what pulled.
Spook Blast with twice undead.
Oh yeah. So that immediately whenever he discarded it with Spook Blast triggered the rebound and came back. So that is a
Oh, with Belfry out, Veiled Mother is going to be disgusting.
oh gosh.
It's going to give +5/+6 to whatever he feels like doing it to.
Yeah.
That's not reasonable. Like, that is not fair
so
at
is
all.
that whenever another unit leaves your graveyard, okay. So yeah, he can either buff it on his own unit, slow down his opponent in combat. I think that interaction won't totally come in. Oh, there's Belfry. There's the Brute, which is going to not proc yet, I believe, because only 1 undead in play, but I mean, again, another thing to worry about. Jeez.
That's so unfair. I cannot believe you got Veiled Mother off the draft. Drafting is whack.
Right.
Alright, the Kingdom will help against Veiled Mother shenanigans, at least.
For sure. I mean, I guess it just comes down now to...
Oh no, gave him an undead. So now it is going to come back. The Brute will come back at the start of combat.
Retroversion might... Oh,
okay.
That didn't hit the undead, though, so that's another attacker. That is an...
We'll see how Folder uses the Mother.
Yeah, I think that might be game.
The Belfry interaction.
I don't know how... I don't know
Calm
how much
Refuge
damage is
was
coming,
also
but
a great target for
Jeez.
Interesting. Went for the 5/3. It looks like he wants to get a good attack in this turn then.
Oh, it also procs Cursed Kingdom for him, because that's
that's so sick!
This is brutal. We,
An 8/8 Brute coming in here? Yeah. So 2 drafts absolutely, like, taking over this game right here. This is just something you can't plan for at all when you're going into a match. Chariot and Veiled Mother off of drafts.
That is ridiculous. I mean, I remember, this is a little bit of an unrelated tangent, but I was playing around with Ta earlier today and testing some custom cards in a deck that happened to include Belfry, and I mean, gosh, the card is just ridiculous. The fact that this thing is running around on Nerf despite a couple update suggestions because of how crazy the power level of this thing is. I mean, even without having planned around it, and sure, the drafts were a little lucky, but there's so many different things as far as rebound or different effects entering play that it's just
lost cause. That's full information, yeah, in the concession. There's no way you're winning after that.
Yeah. Jeez.
That is brutal. The draft mechanic, I personally am not fond of the draft mechanic because of how swingy it is in situations like this. Getting 2 of the best units that you could ask for, honestly, for it. Like a Swarm deck getting Chariot and then Veiled Mother to go with Belfry. Just making the game unwinnable at that point. I don't think there's any draw Grief could have had when those 2 units stay in play that Grief could have won with.
Yeah, I mean... That was brutal. It is interesting to see. We didn't actually get to see the Wake the World interplay, so I wonder if, I mean, there were a couple turns where it would have procced on a couple of places with that Calm Refuge and that Endless Library in there for a while. I don't know that would have mattered per se, but it would have been interesting to at least see a line where the activator that gets procced a little earlier and maybe contest the board before those crazy high rolls off draft become as pertinent as they were.
Right. Very solid start here, coming out of Folder here. has multiple early drops and, well, just has multiple early drops.
Yeah. What more can you say? Speaking of multiple early drops, we transitioned. Both players have switched decks. I'm now looking at Empty Folder's point of view, just to spice it up a little bit. You know, if he ends up claiming this set here. We've seen both sides. Emergency Fire being a pretty nice one-drop, especially, I mean, against something like Proma, where he doesn't quite have the option to return the favor.
Probably the best 2-drop you could ask for there with the Skinworm.
Right. Interesting. Probably should have played the doubloon out of grief.
Missed the free experience there.
Yeah.
Might not have a lot of experience with Proma. That's alright.
I mean, sometimes it happens. Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of things. Sometimes I'll play a one-drop just silly, and I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't have. Sometimes I forget how that hero works. But Thief of Hope on initiative, always pretty nice to see.
Thief of Hope into Skimhorn, pretty good. Still a very strong start from Folder here, even with getting a turn stolen and having probably one of the best early drops against it. Still, like, gets the Catsiel out, and it's looking good. Okay, slightly less ridiculous.
Okay. Grief about to return the favor. I don't really know. Yep. Empty Folder picks up the Cleansing Flames for a little bit of removal, which should be nice to see here. Wizard Slayer coming out. Pretty premium. 3-drop could snowball.
Wizard Slayer is going to be very tough for auto decks to deal with. Duelist is one of the easiest ways to get rid of it. I don't know if Grief has access to that, though. Most of the good Duelist cards were taken by other players.
Seeing a little bit of flame synergy out of both sides there with making Nitro Melon proud.
Ooh, got Glowstone Mine and Gift of the Blood God. That'll probably come online like next turn. I imagine he's going to Blood God the Catsiel, and it's going to be pretty hard to answer.
Yeah.
Oh, and the sacrifice went on to her too. I hope Grief has a removal for it right now, otherwise the game is probably going to end in a couple turns.
Yeah, jeez.
Grief does have Pride, though. I'm pretty sure Grief is the one who drafted Pride. Right now, Folder has no answer to Pride. Has one way to get rid of Ward, but that's it.
Yeah.
I imagine he has Blazing Shurikens in his deck. But
man, ideally.
It'd be really weird if it wasn't running it, considering it was in the other deck, but, you know, who knows?
Interesting to see. Didn't trade down that Thief of Hope with the additional flame blocker that he had. I don't know if maybe just keeps a straight attacker around or just wasn't thinking on it, but I don't know. Cleansing Flames also from draft might be relevant here. Be interesting to see if that hits like a Skinworm or something. I don't totally know.
Grief leaving a lot of mana up. Wonder what the plan is here. I guess just wanted to see what Folder was going for.
This one in particular reminds me a lot of kind of the first board state that we had in your first set, where it seems like if no side has an especially dominating tempo start, the board can stall in a just kind of a weird way like this, which isn't necessarily bad. It'll come down to whoever has the most valuable late game units, and Grief seems to have, I mean, obviously I'm not looking at his point of view right now, but seems to have the card advantage to suggest he'll fare a little better the later this goes on.
Right. Ooh, it's a pretty solid draft. I think Snagurochka, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is a very, very good card. And I'm going to try and trade for one myself if I can. Ooh. There goes the chump blockers that I'm sure Grief wanted.
Yeah.
Ooh. Sick drop right there.
Liberty to my friends, and suddenly Cassiel is out, which prevents some of the Blood God shenanigans we might have seen. I wonder if that hits an alternate target like the Ugandan Taskmaster or Wizard Slayer instead, or if it's better to wait online for an even better target. Something like Hungry Dragon that can fly over these blockers.
Skinworm on the Glowstone Mine. That... I think he's going to Dragon Fire it. That would be my guess, so that it dies next turn. Otherwise, it's going to be a really long time before the Skinworm actually kills that.
There we go.
Yep. The Wizard Slayer grows, though.
Slowly
Once again,
picking
missing
up.
another experience on the coin.
Yeah. Not every day you play Pearl. It's one of the weirder heroes to pilot.
Let's see if he... Okay, just swings with that one.
Hmm.
And that's when it deals damage, you make a unit.
Yep, you're gonna need fodder to get some Elizabeths online. Still seems pretty even. Can't quite guess who's gonna pull ahead on this one. I mean, obviously, empty folder packing a little bit of the life lead, maybe a bit more threats on board, but it seems like Grief is gonna pull out ahead, maybe have a little bit of card advantage and pull out some late game threats. I don't totally know off the top of my head what Grief is looking to grab from draft. I don't know what his biggest late game threats are, but that would certainly maybe be one of them.
Yeah, Berserk Pteranodon. Looks like Dread of Fiorlock and Pride are going to be, as well as Jammy. We saw Jammy last game. I think those are going to be a Wolf Amalgamation as well. So this deck probably has some insane late game.
Yeah.
If he's packing all those threats in it. I mean, the Wolf, I don't think the Wolf will do actual anything right now, so maybe he's not even running it. Since, have we seen any Wolves?
Not yet, I don't believe. Interesting to
That was
see
a
the
interesting
Schnegaraka.
swing with the 2/4.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. Only chump blocks it, doesn't go for the kill with the, like, say, Wizard Slayer and a 1/1.
Interesting stuff.
And once again, we're seeing the draft play a huge role for Empty Folder here with the exhaust on the Pteranodon. Otherwise, had no answer to it.
I do wonder at what point are you, happy to start playing Gifted Blood God, and you have enough tokens on the field where maybe it's worth getting online at some point, but not totally sure.
I'm guessing just saving it for a flyer, like this Hungry Dragon, or maybe Vayne Reaver. Like if they just play Vayne Reaver next turn, or that Euretro Brave, that would be decent. But with Vayne Reaver, I think that would be the biggest swing.
Yeah, for sure. Especially get that out maybe next turn. Buddy Stream, Gift to the Blood God. Oh, he's gonna pass to
That is surprising. Okay.
The large dinosaur synergy from Grief is
Passed again. I wonder why I didn't play the Vayne Reaver.
Castiel coming back in play now that this Gundian Taskmaster is going to summon another fodder. And does it have another skin worm inside of it? Yeah. So lots
So many
of
skin worms.
Again, very stall board state. Lots of considerations. Interesting to see how this might resolve. I think the Snagaraka is going to be the highest priority target for Grief, and then once that Berserker Tyrannodon comes back online, he can start really putting the pressure, even with this stuff. But I guess there's another flyer in play in regards to Castiel, so that's going to be hitting for something crazy. And Buddy Stream, another source of burn.
Foiless crazy draft options here. With the River Prince, that is pretty interesting. Just a bigger flyer than the Prey Beak, but I don't know, has so many flying threats in his hand right now that I almost would have liked taking the lower mana cost one since he has so much to play.
Mm-hmm. You do wonder at some point with 10 damage unchecked on the field. Yeah, it seems like it's about time for Empty Folder to be able to finish.
Pretty much a dead next turn situation here, unless you have a Pride. Also, with that Protector in hand, Pride is going to be one of the only things that can even get Grief out of this, assuming Folder goes for that play, yeah. So now they all have Ward, and...
yeah.
There it is.
There we go. These shall worship me. And then we are an interesting board state, because whenever a Pride hits the field, you really have to start to wonder, like, what is the win con past just surviving? And I don't really know what that looks like for Grief at this point. Obviously, probably need to get the Schneg down. And then, Yeah, I don't know. Lots to think about here.
The Blood God decision was, if you knew basically what was in Grief's deck, and you obviously can guess Pride is going to be in the deck considering you drafted it and strength only. Playing the Blood God on the Hungry Dragon might have been a mistake since you have the Neutral Brave or possibly another duelist in your deck or another way to pump the Brave. Then you could actually go for a duel to kill it. Whereas having an 8/8, I mean, it does provide you with a blocker for the Pride, but doesn't actually solve the problem at all.
That's interesting. I hadn't totally picked up on that, but you're absolutely right. Interesting board state here. Pride is just an interesting card in general. There's the...
That is disgusting, yeah.
There's Grief's very own Abyss Salamander, presenting a little bit more damage. It'd be, you know, worth considering. I mean, there was a line where if Empty Folder hadn't skipped that turn, this might be online in the Vein Reaver as opposed to the onto that Hungry Dragon, and you might see a little more life lead, which, while not being as good as maybe the buffs being on the Duelist, would still maybe prevent Empty Folder from being in risk of being burned down by these big overrunners.
Yeah, and once again, missing. It's a third experience that Grief has missed, so we'll see if that comes into play. And this Hungry Dragon is just going to whittle away at Folder's board because he kind of has to keep it in play to block the Pride at this point.
Yeah.
Now I need one more way to get rid of Ward, and Folder will win. We'll see if can draw one off the top or potentially swing like with one unit at a time and try to
Get
like,
something in a draft.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could be swinging with the Cassio right now, because blocking with the Pride would just be suicide since it would die to the Duelist afterwards.
This is interesting. I don't quite know. Hard to judge the implications of Audience even whenever it hits the field, but it should be maybe a little bit
really
of disruptive.
You're just kind of playing cards for the sake of it, building a slightly better board here.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, now that's going to die to the Skinworm.
Yeah, I don't know about... I mean, I guess you're just looking... Probably your one con is Breaking Ward as opposed to Duelisting down, but I feel like that might reduce your win percentage compared to... I don't know how much the time it helps you.
Grief went for exactly the play I was hoping he would, and Skinworm the Snagurochka, and we'll start whittling that down since unlocking the Tyrannodon would end the game pretty quick.
Yeah.
There we go. Goes for the level up swing with Cassiel. We talked about
there
before.
goes the Duelist.
So all you need is a way to break Ward, and
ooh, that aged pretty poorly with the advent of the second Gift of the Blood God.
He's gonna put that on Pride, I assume. Yep. So next turn you win with the Dark Wish.
Yeah.
Unless he has another Pride, which is entirely possible. But if he had another one, he would have just played it right then. So I think Grief has to top deck the second Pride next turn or just lose.
Yeah, why not this turn? Sorry if that's a silly question.
Well, I think he would have already played the
Audience
Pride if he had it.
Sorry, I didn't realize the Dark Wish couldn't yet come out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I
that's what you
forget
meant.
that
Okay.
that plant thing is... it's a little hard to remember what that boy is doing, but I think that might be... I believe that's the end of the set.
Well, unless... If Grief draws the second Pride, then Grief is still in it. So, otherwise that will be the end of the set, yeah.
Don't want to count them out. I suppose it's fair. But yeah.
Wait, actually, you won't even be able to play Pride because of Audience Steven.
Oh.
Unless if Folder blocked the Audience Steven. Oh, that was definitely a mistake. We'll see if it ends up mattering. It might not, but it also might.
Wouldn't that be something? We'll have to see here.
Ooh, forgive and forget.
Yeah, another possible out.
Yeah, the second pride. I think that's GG.
Good stuff here from both sides. I mean, pretty close games. Neither were really up. Yeah,
Yep, GG.
Jamie is not quite what was needed.
2 answers to pride in hand. Which one do you want to use? Nice.
And that will be the end of the round. All in all,
Yeah.
I mean, a really solid set, I think.
Second game a lot closer than, well, the first one was close for a while and then just kind of ramped up really quickly at the end. This one was pretty back and forth, and we saw a lot of stalled board states again, and we're going to see that a lot in this draft, or in this format.
Yeah, ultimately seems like the late game is supreme, whether you're pulling it off of draft or whether you're pulling it off of your deck, but yeah, good stuff from both sides. Obviously both decks are contenders, and I think that it's going to be really exciting to see how both people do later on. Thank you so much, Risky, for helping me commentate, filling a little bit of the void. Very nice to have you here, man.
It was fun.
See ya. Thanks everyone for tuning in.